Hello, and welcome to the GRACED podcast, where we talk about how we can infuse more everyday magic into your everyday life. And today, we will be talking about tarot. Today's guest is Brigit Esselmont, the founder of Biddy Tarot, an online platform dedicated to providing tarot resources. With 15 million yearly visitors, Brigit and I talk about the themes of the Hierophant card, embodying rituals and traditions to learn tarot, becoming a guide and mentor for others, as well as building a beautiful online tarot community. We are also doing a giveaway of 3 of Brigit's Biddy tarot decks, which I did a collective tarot reading on the last podcast episode, the Mysticscopes. Make sure to check out that episode to see what collective card popped up and what message you need to hear this week. To enter the giveaway, leave a podcast review and follow us on social media, specifically Instagram. Now let's dive in to this enriching episode. Hi, Brigit. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here.
Me too. You're like a legend in the tarot space.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind.
Yeah. So I would love to hear about the inspiration of starting Biddy Tarot. And today we are speaking about the Hierophant card, and I thought you would be a great fit because of the beautiful community that you've created.
Yeah, beautiful. So yeah, a bit about like the background story of Biddy Tarot and how I came to build it. It all started like way back in the late 1990s. So I was about 17, 18. I had my first tarot reading. It was amazing. I thought, this is great. I would love to be able to learn how to do this myself. So I started learning how to read tarot. And then at the same time, the internet was just starting to become a thing. And I thought, why don't I just learn how to write HTML code, and I'll just create a website and I'll just put in there like what I'm learning along the way. And then that started to grow, like, albeit, with an audience of like 3 people, but I just kept writing in there and kept adding more pages as I was learning more about tarot. And, kind of fast forward like 10 years, I was starting to do tarot readings on that website. I was adding all of my different tarot card meanings, and it started to grow a bit more over time. And then I found out about SEO, so search engine optimization. I thought, okay, if I just do these simple things, let's see what happens. And literally within 2 or 3 months, back in 2009, Biddy Tarot had hit like the top rankings in Google for tarot card meanings. And we've pretty much stayed there ever since, which is a huge, huge blessing, because it is what creates that community and that place where a lot of people go to find out, what does my tarot card mean? How do I interpret this in a reading? So right now, I think we have around 15 million visitors a year to the website, which is crazy. And of course, over that time, I also built out different online tarot courses. We have a certification program, we have a membership, we have books, we have decks, like you name it, it's all there.
That's incredible. I know that when I was Googling and starting out on my journey, your website would pop up and I would read the descriptions, and it was definitely a tool that I used, learning tarot. So when you were learning tarot, did you go to mentors or did you read books, or how did you learn tarot?
Yeah, I went like into full study mode. So I was at university at the time, and I was a very good like academic type student. I knew how to like learn something. So I thought, okay, I'll apply that same learning approach to tarot. So I read pretty much every book that was out there. I tried to find tarot groups that I could connect with, so other tarot people in my area. But to be perfectly honest, I was in my early 20s. I did not look like a typical tarot reader. And the only groups I could find were those that had much older women who were very much in that kind of more esoteric, like typical tarot reader style. And I just did not feel like I really fit into that group. I just didn't relate. And so, I just continued more and more down that path of self-teaching and self-learning. Later on, I started to realize that, okay, memorizing the book and all of that sort of stuff actually isn't the best way to learn to read tarot. And a lot of it is about just practicing your readings, learning just to trust your intuition, letting it flow, and just getting more and more practice. Because that, I think, was the big turning point for me, was just to start actually reading, because that's where all of those beautiful learnings really were, versus just going, okay, what does the book say? And try and learn all of those different spreads.
Yeah, I find that some people just get really stuck on whatever it's supposed to mean. Whereas reading it intuitively, it's very much whatever is coming through your filter of experiences and whatever is coming through you and your spirit and whatever you're meant to say. Like you're the divine vessel for whatever message comes through. And so for anyone that is struggling to listen to that intuition, how would you guide them to trust themselves more when it comes to a tarot reading?
Yeah, it's interesting. I encounter a lot of people who are quite similar to me in that, our natural state is to want to have information, to want to be right, to know that is a container in which we're operating. And so I think if you think in that kind of way, then it can be really helpful to go and study the books in between readings, right? So get in all of that information, put it all into your brain, and then when you go and do a reading, trust that you have all the information that you need, that your brain is an amazing feature of your body and it will store and retain all that information, because when you sit down to do that reading, your beautiful intuitive subconscious mind is going to be pulling exactly what it needs to out of what you've already read, but also what you've experienced and out of the whole collective consciousness. So I really trust that it's about putting the book away during a reading and then just really being in that state where you're ready to receive. And actually something that I teach in my programs is this whole concept of sacred space. We skip it so many times, right? We're like, oh, I just need to find out what the cards say. Quick, grab the cards, just shuffle. But if we don't stop and pause and go, okay, just be present, just tune in, we can end up just missing all of those messages. So that time just to tune in is also what really lays the foundation for having a much more intuitive reading, because we're like, okay, clear away everything. Yeah, be the empty vessel, be the divine channel, like let it come through and then do the reading, because that really supports it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree that there's validity in learning all of the meanings and studying it. However, I do find that there's value in your intuition and value in whatever wants to come through your vessel at that time. And since you're talking about sacred space and rituals, what is your ritual before a reading? What is your sacred space and what does that look like?
It really depends. And I think it's a funny question because I bet people think, oh, I'm sure Brigit does like 4 directions and then she lights candles and she does incantations and all the things, right? Sometimes, sure, I might incorporate that into a more of a ceremonial type ritual with tarot. But to be perfectly honest, when I am just about to do like a quick reading, a check-in, it can be as simple as just closing down my eyes, taking in a few deep breaths, just noticing all that tension dropping out of my body, becoming really present, opening up to receive, then opening my eyes and shuffling, or at least being intentional about the question that I'm asking and then shuffling the cards. And I think this is what is really important, is that, we don't have to be like all the bells and whistles of creating this sacred space. It really can be as simple as even just taking a few deep breaths or even just closing your eyes for 15 seconds. Like, we live in such a fast-paced world. Even that moment of closing your eyes can just feel like an absolute luxury, and to kind of bring your focus back in. So it can be so simple and yet so powerful. Like, you just don't have to overdo it. But if you do want to overdo it and you want to have all the crystals and everything, like, go for it. It can be quite simple as well.
I love that. I love how simple it is to just take a breath whenever you need it and to get really clear, because I think similar to how people might get intimidated by all of the card meanings, they might get intimidated by a ritual before a reading. And so by simplifying it just by taking a breath, doing whatever it is to get present in your space, that can be enough.
Yeah, wouldn't that be way better than not doing the reading at all because you're stressing about if you've got the right equipment and so on? Like, it's just use what you've got. Like, because you could be out traveling and you want to do a reading. You don't need all your stuff. Like, just you've got it all ready in here. And I think that is actually the whole essence of tarot, like reading tarot and trusting intuition. Anyway, you don't need all that stuff that's outside of you. All you need is this inside. Tarot cards would certainly help, but you can also just do it without tarot cards and just by tuning in.
So what is the value for you to have spiritual tools? Because you mentioned that sometimes you don't even need the tarot cards.
Yeah, I like to have the cards when maybe it's something that I'm bothered by something, but I don't know what it is. And it's not yet fully in my conscious awareness. I can feel something's off, but I don't know what that is. So the cards can really help me go, oh, okay. It brings that thing from subconscious into the conscious. And when it's in the conscious awareness, that's when we can take action. We can do something. If it stays in subconscious, it'll be affecting us, but we won't necessarily know what it is that's affecting us. And so we can kind of be, feel a little bit more out of control in that way. So I certainly love using the tarot cards just to help bring those things into more conscious awareness. But equally, I am really training myself to be in an intuitive space so that when I do need to tune in, I can do that easily and quickly. I know it's just something that I can just switch on and off as I need it. I mean, to be honest though, really, our intuition's always switched on. Once it's on, right? But I think too, where intuition and tarot and spiritual tools also really come into play is in business. And, Grace, you're doing amazing with your work as well. And no doubt you're integrating your intuition and your spiritual practice into business, because I think this is what really amplifies our success. When we know how to tap into kind of these deeper energies and influences, our opportunity for success just expands like nothing else.
Yeah, the metric of measuring intuition is not a thing. And so, there's just a lot of thoughts going in my brain about that, but I'd love to hear from you about how you amplify your intuition and how you use that as a guiding force in your business and practice.
One thing is definitely having pauses and breaks. So I have a very active mind and it loves thinking things through. It loves doing things. It just goes, if there's a problem, I'm like, how do I solve it, right? But I know that isn't necessarily the best or the only way to go about it. So often if I'm perplexed by a problem, say in the business or with a team or whatever it might be, I know that I'll just go out for a walk. I'll go and just have a pause and just gaze up at the trees and up at the clouds. Because in that space is where most of the insights will really drop in. It's similar to, doing meditation, but it doesn't have to, you don't have to do meditation really to drop in. It can just be, again, as simple as just sitting somewhere where you don't have your phone, you're not distracted, and you're just letting your thoughts roll through beautifully. And then I think the other piece that I'm really tapping into at the moment is this whole concept around be, then do. So I often want to jump into do, take action, and so on. But what I'm realizing more and more is it's so important that we be the person that we want to be, that aligns with the state that we want to create before we start taking action. So if I'm thinking, if I've got a problem in the business, let's say, I'll think, okay, no, what do I need to embody as a leader of a really successful business? What are those qualities and characteristics? Okay, how can I bring those in now? And to be honest, you can use tarot cards to do this as well. You could choose a card that really represents the energy that you want to bring into your energetic system. And then once I'm in that state of being, then all the doing actually will just flow. I don't even need to think about what I need to do. If I'm in the state of being, things just flow. And I think that is also really where the intuition comes in as well, because when you're in that being state, you can be intuitive and allow things to flow. And then you do things that are intuitive just by default.
That's beautiful. I feel like I needed to hear that message because I was just listening to a recording that literally said the same thing. So thank you for that. What archetypes are you embodying now? We are talking about the Hierophant, and that is something that I think you embody really well in terms of being this mentor for tarot enthusiasts, people that want to learn tarot, and expanding that into certifications, courses, books, your deck, which I have right here, the Biddy Tarot. And so I'd love to hear how you infuse that Hierophant energy into your practice, but also if you're embodying any other archetypes in your everyday life.
Yeah. Well, funny story. You already know this story. But Grace, when you reached out to me, you said, oh, can you do the Hierophant? And I'm like, do I really have to do the Hierophant? Is there a different one? Because actually the Hierophant is one of those cards, and I think we all have them, is like where you feel a bit of like, ugh, resistance. Because I think oftentimes I associate like the Hierophant with like being indoctrinated into a certain belief system. And like that's not how I want to operate. I don't want people to think that they have to do exactly what I tell them to do. That said, you gently reminded me that actually the Hierophant is also about community, and that's very much what Biddy Tarot is about. And I think when I do tap into that side of the Hierophant, yeah, absolutely. Like I really see that kind of teacher mentor role in the Hierophant that I'm definitely embodying, and I have done for the last probably 10 years or so. And I'm truly grateful for that role. And it's amazing to be able to lead so many students through getting to know the tarot and discovering not just how to read tarot, but how to actually get in touch with themselves and get in touch with their intuition and so on. So that's a role that I definitely do not take lightly. And I think it's a very important one. And I feel like perhaps the next kind of evolution for me is embodied in the High Priestess. And that's probably why I see her on pretty much every part of the tarot deck that we just created. But I tell you why I love High Priestess. I think she is like the embodiment of the divine feminine, and she is so wise and knowledgeable, but also such an important guide to us all, because she is that transition point between our conscious and subconscious realms, the known and the unknown, the seen and the unseen. And what she really represents to me is the deepening of the work that we do around tarot. So for a long time, I've been very much about, okay, how do I make tarot as accessible to as many people as possible? How do we just get tarot out there, bring it into the mainstream, and make it really easy to get to know tarot? And now what I'm starting to feel into is on the flip side of that, we have over 1,000 certified Biddy Tarot advisors now. And I'm looking at like, okay, we've got these beautiful students who have done amazing things. How do I support them to now take it to that next level? How do we go deeper with this? How do they also step into their High Priestess energy and really become like little beacons of light out into the world? And so I'm looking at like, what role can I play in that way, both deepening it in myself, but deepening it in them as well and supporting them in this longer journey.
I've got to tell you, Brigit, there are no accidents, because the poster behind me happens to be the High Priestess card, because I didn't have the Hierophant card poster in my studio. And so I was like, we're just gonna have to roll with this. The High Priestess is behind me. But I feel like that poster was really meant for you.
I love it. Actually, yeah, because I was admiring your posters. I thought, oh, I'm going to have to print out the High Priestess and pop her up on the wall. So that's really cool. And it's interesting because High Priestess, she is just showing up in so many different ways. Like when I've done meditations and some really deep journey work, she just pops up everywhere. And there's a whole beautiful energetic exchange that's happening with me and this archetype of the High Priestess. Yeah, I think she's such a powerful card. So relatable. I don't know if you like really connect with her energy as well. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I would say I connect more with the Magician, but I feel like the balancing between the feminine with the High Priestess and the masculine with the Hierophant does go well together. And I know for a lot of people that have businesses, a lot of small business owners, a lot of tarot readers, because essentially they are starting a business when they offer that service to other people. How do you balance that masculine energy with this feminine energy?
Yeah, it's such a good question, because I think we've been brought up in, I've been brought up, maybe you haven't, I don't know. But like, I feel like society is quite a masculine, like energetically a masculine dominated society. So it's all about like structures and following a path and going from A to B and doing all of the things. And I'm very good at that. Like my brain is wired to operate in that way. So certainly like when I've been creating a business, it's been quite strong in the masculine of having all of those things set up. What I'm finding now though, and I've always has been feminine included in that, but I feel like I'm stepping more and more into the feminine side. So it's balancing out actually. And I have a team of 15 people. So they are awesome. They do pretty much everything, like all the day-to-day stuff. And that's great because it means that they can take care of business And for me, I'm now stepping more and more into this visionary role, which means I'm stepping more into that feminine, the divine feminine. And I actually don't have to worry as much about the masculine because I know my awesome team have got that all taken care of. So for me, that means like I'm in much more of a creative space. I'm creating courses again. I'm creating content. I feel much more in flow. And yeah, we're also really integrating more of these divine feminine practices into the business. We have a much more intuitive flow with how we operate the business now. So yeah, it's just evening out really nicely.
Yeah. So when you mention that you think of the Hierophant as this indoctrinated personality, in some ways, the High Priestess is also indoctrinated too, but in the mysterious void.
Yeah, it's interesting that you said that. Because that made me like, oh, is she indoctrinating? I guess she is. But, I think what I love about her energy is that even she's got that book on her lap, which is kind of like all of the knowledge all stored in that book. And she's the keeper of the book, so she keeps the knowledge and everything. And she's only really letting those initiated ones through. So what I like about her is she has that sort of air of like, I'm here for you, but I'm here for you only when you are like ready to really step through this curtain. And when you do, I will be there with my knowledge, my support, and all of that. And I will indoctrinate or lead you through that kind of process to step into these hidden realms that exist. And so I think I'm really tapping into that level of, it is for the initiated ones. It's a different level of working with tarot or intuition and so on. Yeah, but actually, okay, no, here's the other thing too that's coming to mind is what's really important to me, and I do this in our courses, is like I really want to be able to activate intuition within others. And I'm teaching our students to also do the same with their clients. So when you read the cards, you don't just go, oh, this is the Seven of Swords, there's betrayal. You're like, okay, what do you see? What's happening in the card, right? Because then we're activating intuition within you. We're not the whole keepers of the knowledge and you must only consult me to find out things, but I can actually show you how to now be intuitive, and then you can have this ripple effect as well.
Yeah, and I feel like you can feel that energy when someone is really channeling a message versus reciting whatever the card is supposed to mean. And then I find that when I piece the cards together, it just tells a story. So it's very much activating the parts of yourself that want to create a narrative.
Yes. Yeah. And I think the narrative is so important because, again, if you end up just going card by card, which is fine. Like if you're a beginner, that's how you get started. You go, oh, that's what that means that. But then you start to go, okay, well, now I've got these 3 cards. What does that mean altogether? What does that really look like? What is the story that's being told here? And where do I fit into it? And what meaning does that have for me? Yeah.
Yeah. So since you've built such a beautiful community of tarot readers and enthusiasts, what are some of your biggest lessons from creating a community?
Yeah, I think certainly from the outset, it's always been important to me that we're creating a very open, inclusive, warm, friendly type of community. And again, I think this comes back to like when I first started out and I just could not find my people, as in I couldn't find anyone that I could really relate with who shared a similar passion with tarot. And even when I tried to enter some of those groups, it felt really like yuck and exclusive. You had to know certain things. You had to be certain esoteric, blah, blah, blah. And it did not feel inclusive at all. And even I remember, this is a long time ago, I remember being like asked to leave groups because I didn't conform to what they wanted or something, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you know what? This is stupid. Like, we've got to change this. And I'm sick of being in, say, Facebook groups too, where you'd have like these negative, like keyboard warriors talking about blah, 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 blah. I'm like, no, what I want to create is a space where we can feel safe, we can feel inclusive, we can have a diverse group of members, but everyone there is sharing the same love and passion for tarot. And we're doing it in a way that creates an open space for open discussion. It's okay to like have a different opinion, but so long as we're respectful of that opinion and we're open to listening to each other, that's really important. So now, like inside of our Biddy Tarot community, we now have, I think it's about over 1,500 members. And we have one of our team, Hilary May, she's amazing. She runs these beautiful community connection calls. So we might have up to 60 people on a Zoom chat at any one time, and everyone's just sharing and talking about tarot. We're doing like breakout rooms, and they get to chat and make these connections. And it's so special because oftentimes, like in your local community, if you're outside of a major city, or if you're in a place that's not particularly conducive to tarot, it can be hard to find those people. So we just really want to create that safe space for people to be able to gather and support each other. Because how much does that impact things? Like when you've got people around you that are like, yeah, you're doing awesome, or you can go and ask a question. That's what really lifts up your whole practice and your whole connection to tarot.
Absolutely. I think that has everything to do with how much further along you go in your journey. So, for example, I was actually gifted a tarot deck from my cousin, I believe back in college, but I don't think I actually really took it seriously until I moved to LA for my job at the time. And tarot and energy healing and crystals and all of that stuff is just so much more accepted out there. I know it's much more accepted now, like everywhere, but I don't think I would have cultivated that interest as much if I wasn't in an environment that wasn't necessarily like supporting it. And I do agree that there's just something about in mainstream culture mentioning, oh, I read tarot, this is my business, this is what I do. When I'm explaining that to people, that's even still like how do I explain this to you in a way where you understand? Have you ever experienced that?
No, never. I don't know what you're talking about. No. No. Quite a bit. And actually, so here's what I've learned over the years. So early on, when I first was like talking about tarot and I read tarot, I'd be kind of like nervous and I'd be like, oh, I don't know, what are they going to think? And then I'd say the words and they'd come out really weird. And then people would like look at me funny and go, oh, you're doing tarot, you like a witch. I even had one person at like a business conference. She asked me what my business was. I tell her, and she like literally said nothing. She stood up, she walked off. I was like, holy moly, that is crazy. But over the years, the more that I got so clear in my own mind about the impact, the positive impact of the work that we're doing in Biddy Tarot and that collectively we're doing around tarot, we are a greater community who's really lifting up tarot in really great ways. The more I got really in tune with that and felt really good and strong with that, then I could just talk about tarot in such a different way. And if I encounter people these days who are like, oh, but isn't that weird? And I'm like, yeah, not really. There's many other things that are weird. What's so weird about looking at a picture and seeing like how that might relate to you in life? And I'm now at a point where I actually feel a little bit of sympathy. If someone can't really grasp that there might be some value in tarot, I'm like, oh, that's pretty sad. They're missing out. Oh, well, okay, next. Who else can I chat to? So yeah, I'm kind of in a different space with it now. But, you know, every now and then it's funny, like it can come up where people think, oh, it's witchcraft, or like, isn't that evil? And what if it tells you something that you don't want to know, or it makes something bad happen? And I'll go, great, this is a time to educate the world and share a different perspective, because like, you'll know, there's all the media has just kind of ruined tarot, I think, because it sort of portrays this like dark, mysterious element of the tarot. And, you know, we know that that's not what it is. It can be that, but generally speaking, the work that we're doing is about how do we make this into more of a create your future instead of a predict your future type tool.
Ooh, I love that distinction. And actually, when I do get a lot of DMs or messages about like, oh, is this related to the devil, or, you know, is this evil or whatnot? I'm just like, listen to yourself, because a lot of these messages are like, oh, I come from a religion, or my parents don't agree with this. And I'm just like, well, why don't you see how you feel when you interact with the cards? And that way you're listening to your intuition versus your conditioning. And I think a lot of people that get into this, myself included, it's about releasing these limiting beliefs or releasing these things that don't necessarily align with your values. And if they're saying like, I mean, essentially a tarot card is paper, right? That has meaning to it, that we assign meaning to it. You could say the same thing about money. What is the value of this versus a dollar bill?
I love that you just have a dollar bill sitting on your desk.
Just so happens to be in front of me.
But, I was talking to a friend last night and I'm like, yeah, tarot is just a tool. It's just like a knife. We don't call a knife evil, do we? Because a knife can be used to stab someone or it can be used to make a beautiful meal. We don't go, oh, let's not touch any knives because they're very bad. Tarot can be used for not so great things, unfortunately, scammers and who knows what else, but it can be used for such beautiful things. And it would be such a waste if we just wrote it off and go, oh, no, can't touch that. No, that's bad. Doesn't make sense.
There are a lot of scammers, especially on Instagram. How are you dealing with that?
As a team, our time and our energy is finite. We only have so much of it. And I think about, okay, we could spend time trying to deal with all this scammer stuff, or we could invest it in building up our community, serving our customers and so on. So we've made quite a conscious decision that we don't spend a lot of time in it. If we do have people that send in and love them, say, okay, I think this is a scam account, we just say, please report it. Because, at the end of the day, I don't know if you're experiencing this, but Instagram is not doing anything. We've got our little verified tick and nothing happens. These scam accounts just keep going. We're trademarked on the name. I don't understand why it's allowable. It's very odd.
Yeah, even before the scam accounts got popular, I would say, there was an account that literally had our logo in an account spelled very similarly, and I've been trying to take it down. It feels like for years now, but yeah, it just seems like there's nothing to do other than to shine your authentic light on social media, and people will hopefully understand what the difference is.
And I just hope, though, that communities have enough good sense to know, okay, if someone's DMing me from this account asking to do a reading, it's probably not us. It probably is a scam, and just to have that awareness. Because what bothers me is to think that these scammers are successful in scamming our own communities because they're trying to pose as us and trying to sell things and so on. I think that's definitely the downside, but hopefully by now it's been long enough, hasn't it? It's been years of not addressing this issue. But I'll just tell you a quick funny story. Even TikTok, we didn't set up our account until recently, and I noticed someone had the @Biddy Tarot account. I'm like, how is this possible? So I put in a whole trademark thing and it got taken down. I was like, oh great, now we can have that. But no, that @Biddy Tarot is blocked. We can't even get it. We own the trademark to it. And so now we can't use that handle on TikTok. Maybe it's a sign just not to be on TikTok, but it's crazy.
Oh my goodness. A short interruption to let you know about the tarot resources that we have on MysticMondays.com. Check out the full blog to not only see the tarot card meanings, but the full meanings of the tarot cards and the Mystic Mondays Oracle cards. Also, this Saturday kicks off the 2-part tarot workshop series, where I am teaching an intro to tarot workshop and a train to be a tarot reader workshop. You can buy one ticket or both, and yes, there are sliding scale tickets available. You can get your tickets at tarot-training.mysticmondays.com. Back to the episode. Yeah. So I know we talked about you instilling your teachings onto your tarot students and building your community, but I'd also love to hear about how you passed along your visionary ways to your team, because as relating to the Hierophant, you're passing along knowledge and wisdom. And I'd love to hear how you're doing that from growing your team to just you, to 1, to 15 now. How has that journey been for you?
Yeah, it's such a learning evolution, I would say. So I hired my first team member back in 2013, and her name's Kim, and she joined for about 5-10 hours a week. She just did basic stuff like uploading to the blog and what have you. That was a really good opportunity for me to learn how to delegate tasks. And then from that point, it started to grow. And I started to hire more VAs onto the team so that they could take care of things that anyone could do. I really wanted to stay focused on what only I could do, because that's where I could create the most value, and anything that anyone else could do, I could delegate it. Then kind of fast forward to probably about 2018, by then I had a team of a couple of managers and a couple of admins. And what that meant was I would come up with, say, a launch strategy, I'd map it all out, and then I could hand it to my team. they would get it into, well, we were using Trello at the time, so a project management software, and then they could start executing it. And I'd still be in there like writing copy, emails and so on, but they would be doing a lot of like the work. So that worked really well. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to tap out at this point. Like I'm going to reach a ceiling with how much I can personally do. So then I started to look for someone that could start to work as like a COO to me. So if I'm the CEO, then I have a COO who's kind of taking care of more of the business and can start working on like strategies. So I think that was 2019. I brought in Kayleen, who like still works. She's like my right hand woman. She's like my business wife in a way. So now like she's over these sort of 3-4 years, she's really stepped into that role where now she is running the business in that type of integrator role. But that took 3 or 4 years. So if I think about like back to the Hierophant, a lot of that was just what's been so important for us is this whole energetic alignment. So I've been really working with Kayleen to make sure she sees how I think through certain problems and how I do things and what's important to me and what's not. And so over these 3 years, it's really been about instilling that within her so that now I can be at a point where she can kind of think like me, but also think like her, because that's really important, and then work with the team from there. So it's definitely like it's a long journey. I hear a lot of people go, I just want an OBM, like an online business manager. I need them in the next 2 weeks. And I think, oh, okay, good luck. Because it takes a while like to make sure that you can fully trust that person to be operating and making decisions like on behalf of you. So yeah, that is a shortened version of what it takes to really expand the team. But and also like throughout that whole time, it's a personal evolution as well, right? Because what made me successful 10 years ago, which was being able to do everything all at once, is definitely not going to make me successful now. There's no way I should be the chief everything officer of the business. I need to be in that creation and visionary type role now. So you have to keep shedding that skin and sort of stepping into a new version of yourself. Yeah.
So what were some signs for you to let go of some things? Because it sounds like control that you're letting go of.
Yeah. Ugh, it's hard. Even these last few years, I've still been quite involved in the business. And what I found was because I was caught up in like solving business problems and figuring stuff out, I was actually left with very little energy to be in creation mode. So things like our Biddy podcast took a 5-year hiatus because I just didn't have the time and the energy for it. Our YouTube channel didn't really have much activity on it. There was a lot of things where typically as a founder, you'd be more present, but because I was so absorbed in the business and marketing strategies and so on, I just didn't have the space for it. But I think the more that I've had Kayleen really step in, the more space I've been able to create and more energy I've been able to kind of reclaim. And now like I'm pumping out these like new courses, I'm doing all the YouTube content, I'm getting the podcast up and running. Like my energy has changed and shifted in such a positive way. And I know that this is going to positively impact our community. So I think out of all of that, I found that I reached a ceiling point where like if I invest all my energy here, I'm not doing it here. And which one is actually the most important? And which one can I only do? I am still the face of the company. So I need to really be invested in that space. And my team can take care of the doing stuff.
Yeah. So with you stepping into this visionary side of yourself, what would you say to anyone that is doing both right now?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a time and a place for it. Like I've been through that time and it's probably a good 5 years of my business journey of being both the visionary and the integrator. And there's certainly a time in that business journey that absolutely makes sense and you'll feel great doing it. You'll be like, yeah, I love making my content. Maybe you've got a small team. Maybe it's about 3 people, 5 people. But it's also really important to maintain that balance and just start to notice and observe, where am I putting my energy? And does that feel like it's right for where I'm at in my business? If you start to find like, oh, I'm putting way too much time in this integrator role and I'm not doing enough in visionary, okay, well, what's the impact of that? Because like I experienced, not being in that visionary role and kind of the front of the company means that maybe we start to lose a little bit of connection with our community. And maybe I've got to rebalance that. equally, there's many people who love being in the visionary side and are like, yeah, I've got so many ideas, and there's no like integrator. And so if you're in that space, and like sometimes that's really hard if you've got team members and you're like, let's do this thing. Oh no, I've had a new idea. Let's go and do this thing. And the team's like scrambling. What are we doing next, right? So you've also got to have that balance as well. I think those roles always need to be in really nice balance, but the question is who needs to be doing them? Because maybe you're doing both, but at some point you might go, okay, it might actually be better to have someone take on more of this integrator so I can be in my visionary space.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I'd love to hear about your process creating the Biddy tarot deck. And I know this is your second deck. I'd just love to hear how have you been stepping into your visionary side of yourself when creating these decks? And have you always wanted to create a deck? And what has that been like manifesting into reality?
I've always tentatively wanted to do a tarot deck. I've imagined it to be a very long process, and I thought, oh, it would be nice, but like I think I probably want to do other things instead because they're quicker and they have a big impact. But then back in 2018, or actually no, a year or two before that, I got the book deal with Running Press, and they were like, oh, how do you feel about doing a tarot deck to go with the book? I was like, great, that sounds good. And then we got it done within 2 or 3 months. I worked with the artist, and it moved so quickly, and then they took care of everything else, and it was fantastic. It's now sold over 400,000 copies, like amazing. But I guess the downside of that is that we don't have that full ownership of the IP and so on with those decks. It's great because it gets out into so many other places, but then we can't necessarily connect with those customers easily. So we're like, okay, well, what if we did like a Biddy tarot deck and we self-published? Let's try self-publishing because we've self-published books before and that's been pretty easy. So we actually started with having like a digital deck in mind that we'd use on our site so that we didn't have to worry about licensing and all of that kind of stuff. And then halfway through that, we're like, let's print this deck. We'll make it an actual deck. And so that was really an 18-month process compared to the 2 or 3 months with the publisher. And yeah, so there's probably a good 12 months of just designing the deck because we kind of had it as a low priority, but just something that was tinkering away on the side. And my vision with the deck was really like, how can we honor the traditions of the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, but also apply our own Biddy tarot flavor to it. So it's a little bit more simplified than a Rider-Waite-Smith, and it's got all of our beautiful colors. And I find it a much more modern, approachable, accessible type of deck. And that's certainly aligned with our brand as well. And we also have a lot more diversity in like skin tones and so on. So it's a more inclusive deck as well. So yeah, we designed the deck. Then we got into the whole like printing of the deck. You're all traditionally published, aren't you? Not self?
I self-published the first one as a Kickstarter. So yes, went through my own troubles where actually most of my stock ended up getting damaged, unfortunately. And that actually led me to a publisher. So yeah. But what happened with yours?
So we started like the printing, like finding a supplier first. And we probably went through, 3 or 4 different like potential suppliers, but it was like getting the samples that we really underestimated. So we probably went through about 4 or 5 rounds of samples, and we're talking at least maybe 4 to 6 weeks per sample because they've got to create it, especially, then they've got to send it, then we need to review it, and then it's not quite right, and then we do it again. So that was this very long, drawn out process. And no matter how much, in fact, the more specific we got with some suppliers, the worse the sample got. We're like, oh my goodness, this is not working. But we eventually landed on a couple of suppliers that actually really got our vision and what we wanted to do. And then they started just like over delivering in a really awesome way. So we finally got the sample that we could sign off on. And then, so then we were able to launch the deck, and we launched that in March of this year. And that was really awesome. But then, of course, there's all things like the shipping and the fulfillment. That ended up being like way more expensive than we had calculated because there are a ton of like hidden fees that they didn't let us know about. And then that affects the pricing and whether we could do free shipping. Like, it's just been a very big learning journey from a logistical point of view. But that said, what I know is anytime someone receives our deck, they are like enamored, enchanted by this deck because it's so beautiful. It's got so much love in it. And I like to think that we've created a really high quality deck that people really love. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm opening up your deck just to show people, but something that I personally love about your deck is the purple foil on the edges of the card. I think it's just so royal.
I love it. Yeah. Actually, that came about almost by accident because you see, like with the print, like we've got this purple bar. And so originally we didn't have the side, but you could then see like, oh, is this card upright or reversed? Like, oh, how will we get rid of that? Oh, I know, let's put foil on. And then that ends up being probably one of my favorite features as well of the deck. Yeah.
That is such a funny, happy accident. It worked out well.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what has been the importance of teachers and mentors in your life? You know, whether they're spiritual in nature or whether it be in business or, you know, what has been really impactful for you in your life and what you've learned?
Yeah, I think teachers, mentors, guides have come in at all stages of my life in all aspects. You know, even think back to say my corporate days. I was working as a management consultant in my like early 20s, and some of the partners that were part of that consulting company just lay down the foundation for like massive possibility for me, which I know I use that now as I look at Biddy Tarot and where we can take things. So like I'm deeply grateful for that from very early on. Spiritual teachers in terms of people I've done workshops with. I was lucky enough to have an in-person workshop with Alana Fairchild, does all the oracle decks. And that was just amazing and really paved the way for the work that I'm doing now. And just think like teachers and guides come in at all of these different points. And I think too what happens is they have seasons. They come in at just the right time and then they're done and then they go. I'm not really one that kind of has just one person all the time, but I definitely enjoy just sort of taking connecting in with their energy and seeing how that can kind of infuse my own work. Even like locally where I am now, I did a feminine embodiment program last year with Zoe, and just being in that magical energy has really sort of changed the way I see things. So it happens on all different levels. Yeah.
That is so lovely that you did a workshop with Alana or collaborated with Alana because she was the guest for the High Priestess episode on the GRACED podcast. So funny enough. And the same poster for Alana's episode is up for your episode. So funny. It's funny. So the Hierophant, to wrap up on this theme of today, is also about tradition. And I'm wondering what traditions you have, whether it be with your family, in your everyday life, or spiritual or whatnot, or even business. What traditions are important to you? Because it does sound like you have set up some really great systems for you to step away, for you to then be fully in that visionary mode and to also trickle down that knowledge to other people so that they can fully understand how to take your vision and run with it without you necessarily being there to manage every little thing. So are there traditions that are important for you in your life, and in what aspect?
Yeah, what an interesting question. Well, I would say I'm like less of a traditional person, but now I reflect on it, there are definitely some traditions that come into play. So in a business context, we have a lot of like structures set up, and we have organizational like team values that are in place that are really important to us. And we have things like Asana, project management. That is kind of the systems and the processes of the business. That's the mechanics of the business. So I suppose in some way, having those structures in place are like our traditions. And even if I'm thinking of, say, my approach with tarot, I've always honored like the Rider-Waite-Smith deck as the traditional deck. And I think that's why I really chose to keep this one, acknowledging and honoring that tradition, because like I learnt with the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. That was my deck. I did not touch any other deck. So I was like, no, that's not the right one. I want this one. But I got to a point where I was like, oh, I'm not really relating now with the colors and it doesn't match our website and that sort of thing. So I think, I really do honor the tradition that is within tarot. And I do honor too that like it is centuries of wisdom. In fact, it's probably even way more than just the centuries of since, tarot was created, because the symbolism that's in tarot is so age old, timeless, and so on. And I think it's really important. Like, even though we're bringing tarot into more modern contexts, we still need to pay homage to the traditions of the tarot, because they do play like a really important role. So yeah, and I think like family wise, no, I don't know. We don't really have a lot of traditions. One of my values is freedom and flexibility. So that's probably why I was like, oh, Hierophant, not sure.
Yeah, that's one of mine too.
So actually, I think maybe it's in the Osho Zen. That's my other favorite deck. I think the Hierophant, they have it as the Rebel. I think that might be the complementary card as well. So it's interesting, that sort of interplay between tradition versus freedom, what that might look like.
Yeah. So what does freedom look like for you?
Yeah, I think having freedom to choose, certainly like when I stepped out of corporate and into my own business, what I love is that I have freedom to choose when I work, where I work, how I work, what I work on. There's freedom in how much abundance I can create. At a job, you're like limited to your salary, whereas when you have your own business, it's unlimited. I love that feeling. I work really well when I have freedom in my schedule. So I don't attend really any team meeting anymore, because I'm like, I dread it if like my calendar's all full. Like, where's the space to be creative, right? And I think like for us stepping into this intuitive work, like a whole piece of that is freedom to create your future, freedom to trust yourself, freedom to go within the flow of where life takes you. I think that's really important.
Yeah. Do you know what your big three in astrology is? Your sun, moon, and rising.
Wait, I know Virgo's the rising, Taurus is my sun, so Taurus must be my moon as well. Yeah, it's a lot of earth.
A lot of earth. That makes sense. Very grounded, very practical, very strategic.
Yeah.
If you could give advice to your younger self, what would you say?
Oh, it sounds so cliche what was just coming in my head. I'm like, just believe. But the reason why I think that might be true is, even if you just go back, say 5 years, and if you asked yourself 5 years ago, do you think you'll have all these tarot decks and this amazing business, and, you'll be reaching people through your podcast, all of that, and you asked yourself 5 years ago, you'd be like, what are you talking about? No way, I can't do that. And then you get here and you're like, oh, well, of course I did that. I know I could probably do even more, right? And so I think for anyone who's on any journey, just a reminder that what you're capable of in 5 years or 3 years or even 1 year is so way beyond what you could even imagine, because you're in this current state. So when you're in a current state, you're based on the past and the present. You have no idea of your future potential. And I think that is what is the most exciting thing, because you and we might be on the precipice of something so amazing that we can't even imagine. So I think it is really just trusting and believing that anything is possible, even though that sounds awfully cliche.
Belief and imagination, I think, is everything, because the thought form then allows you to take the action steps to make it into a physical thing. And if you had told me that I'd be making tarot cards now, I would be like, what? I never thought I would be doing this. So life takes you in some funny directions, but also more in alignment with who you truly are. And I feel like, every step we take towards that alignment, we just reveal more and more of our authentic selves that perhaps we weren't allowed to express before. And so I would love to end on you giving us a collective tarot reading with your deck.
All right. Okay, so I always have these little moments of panic when I do a live reading, and I think, oh, come on, tarot, don't give me a bad card. So let's see what happens. And of course, we know that there are no good or bad cards in the tarot deck. So let's see, what can we tune into collectively at this time? And also knowing that we are going beyond time and space, because you might be listening to this, well, everyone's listening to this now, but now might be 2024, might be 2023. So let's just travel wherever you are right now and let's see what comes up. Oh, man. Okay, so actually it was, I have to be real. Okay, it was reversed. So this is the Six of Swords reversed. And so in this card, we see a woman and a child being rowed across the water with the 6 swords. And often this is kind of like making that regretful transition. But maybe this is where it all comes into play, because When it's reversed, I actually work with the visuals of this because it looks like all of those swords, which are our thoughts and our worries, are almost starting to fall out of the boat, and we can keep moving forward, but without worry, maybe without expectation. And so maybe this is an invitation to keep making that journey forward, but to release any of those thoughts and limiting beliefs that might be blocking that journey. Because sometimes I think, we have to make journeys that don't necessarily feel great. Even like the journey towards embracing one's intuition or embracing one's soul path or finally becoming a tarot reader. Like there's hardship that can go with that. There's worry and there's concern, but maybe this is just a sign of just let that go. Just be present with what it is. I also think about like the water in this card, even though it's a swords card, we still have that element of emotion and just being really present with your emotion, your feelings. Anything that you would add? What do you see in here, Grace?
Yeah, so the Six of Swords always reminds me of migration. And I was actually featured on another podcast, Amanda Garcia's Between the Worlds, and the Six of Swords was the topic. And actually what came through me was talking about how my parents and my grandparents were refugees and they had to basically ride a boat out to escape the Vietnam War and were picked up by the Hong Kong National Guard. And I think for me, that card represents some ancestral ties, but it also represents going on a journey and not necessarily knowing where you're going to go. And so back to your advice to your younger self and holding that belief, sometimes you don't really know what is on the other side and what is on the land that you're embarking on this trip into. And I think that this trust that whatever is on the other side is for your highest good, I think that in relying on a higher power to help guide you through some troubling waters, perhaps. But even just being able to rely on yourself, I think, a lot about tarot and what I resonate with is giving people the tools to trust themselves, because oftentimes we're told all of these things from the external world, society, what we should do, what we should look like, what we should, there's so many shoulds. And I think a lot of times we forget about our internal compass. And so what I'm gathering from the card you pulled in your reading is ultimately, if you don't know what's on the other side, it's okay to trust that everything will be okay when you get there. And that this does seem like a very transitory time for a lot of people. And there's a lot going on astrologically. I don't know if you've been feeling it, but I've definitely been feeling it. And then the transition part can be scary. And so for anybody that might be feeling overwhelmed or anxious about whatever is on the other side of the future per se, I think it's going to be okay. That's what I'm getting.
Oh, I love it. Oh, so good. Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that too.
Yeah, definitely. So where can people find you?
Well, you can find us over at biddytarot.com and you'll find us on Instagram at biddytarot. You won't find us on TikTok because someone stole it. But yeah, come over to Biddy Tarot because we've got like so many free resources to help people read tarot. We've got tarot card meaning, keyword charts and free trainings and all of the good stuff. And it's perfect for just getting started or developing out like your tarot reading practice.
Beautiful. So Brigit, thank you so much for your infectious positivity and all of the service that you've been doing for the tarot community for so many years. I know that anyone that's starting out on their journey with tarot has probably come across Biddy Tarot because whenever I search any tarot card, your website is the first to pop up. And I think it's a great entryway into tarot. So thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, it's been wonderful. Oh, and I did forget to say too, if you would like to check out our Biddy Tarot deck, that's also over at biddytarot.com/deck. Nice and simple. So it's been so good to have a chat today and connect around tarot. I love like the work that you're doing. You are definitely paving the way for a very modern approach to tarot, which I just think is awesome and amazing. So thank you for all the work that you're doing as well. And hopefully, like collectively, we're all raising global consciousness and this like new connection to tarot in a much more modern and approachable way. So it's pretty cool.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks so much for tuning in to today's episode with Brigit Esselmont. I'm so grateful for Brigit's bright spirit and for sharing her insights today around connecting to tarot cards, building a powerful online community, and sharing her journey as a spiritual entrepreneur, a soulpreneur. The Hierophant can be quite a traditional card, but Brigit demonstrated that while you can honor and respect tradition, sometimes you can defy tradition to make your own path that feels more authentic and true for you. As a reminder, you can win the Biddy Tarot deck by leaving a podcast review and following us on Instagram. Links will be in the show notes. As always, sending you so much grace today and every day.